Hello, hello. Welcome, beautiful soul. Thank you so much for joining me. It is a blessing and pleasure to be here with you. Please do trust that whenever you have found yourself here, there are likely to be messages within the contents of this video for you. I would encourage you to use your discernment. Take only what resonates with you and leave the rest for someone else. Please do not make it your story if it isn't. Before we dive in, if I may, I just want to kind of clarify something for you with regard to how I operate in this space. I'm someone who has very strong beliefs on what is moral, what is ethical in how I show up here. So when I'm going through things in my own healing journey, when I am needing to really navigate things and maybe find myself in the trenches, if you will, I really adhere to my own intuition and my own discernment with regard to whether or not it's appropriate, whether or not it is ethical and moral for me to show up and share content here. And if, again, I'm in the trenches, if I'm dealing with something that I really feel like requires my attention, my focus, then I'm not going to show up here because I don't feel like it's appropriate. I know that there are some creators who are driven by the algorithm, and that's fine for how they run their own channels. However, I don't feel like that's appropriate for the space I'm trying to create or how I'm trying to show up in the world. I just truly do not feel that it is ethical to show up and try to deliver content through a lens that may be unclear. And I understand that there are some of you who have been eagerly awaiting new content, and I'm so grateful for you. I have so much love for you. Thank you for wanting to be here and wanting to experience what I have to share, and I'm so grateful for that. But I just really wanted to take a moment and kind of explain how I view these things, okay? And this is true for everything that we do, right? It's filtered through our own lens, it's filtered through our own experience, it's filtered through our own energy. And if I feel the energy is all mucked up, I'm just not going to show up here because I don't feel like I'm doing anyone who might take that in a service. I don't feel like I'm doing them any favors, right? And I just don't think it's appropriate. So I hope that you guys understand how I kind of operate and take into consideration that when I may, be absent, that there's likely something else going on, and I just don't feel like it's appropriate to show up here and try to force content that may be muddied up, right? So hopefully that makes sense. If not, I will happily answer any questions I can. I have a massive download to share with you, and I'm very excited to dive into that. I just want to say that for me, the way that these messages tend to drop in, usually, this is not always the case, of course, and I'm not here to put limits on God or the angelic hierarchy, but for me, oftentimes these messages that I share with you will trickle in over several days, and I'm not someone who typically gets something and just jumps right in. I usually take some time to really kind of digest it. There are pieces of the puzzle that come in, and so then I end up, with pages of notes, you guys, to share with you, messages that have come in, or different things that kind of layer upon one another and create this much larger picture. So this video, though I have every intention of sharing both the messages I've received as well as messages through the cards, depending on how long it takes me to share this information with you that I've received over the past several days, I may have to break this up into 2 parts because I don't want to go too long. I'm kind of notorious for sharing videos that are, you know, like an hour, hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes. And I know that can be a bit intimidating or a bit overwhelming for some. So I may just break it up into 2 different parts. But we'll see. I'm so ready to dive in and share these messages with you. So let's get to it. Regardless of whenever you're seeing this, you know, it could be the same day, it could be a year from now, whatever that may be. But I do want to mention that we've just had Saturn enter into Aries. And this is the beginning of a new cycle, okay? Aries being, let's say, the baby of the zodiac as the initiating sign, right? The beginning, if you will. That being said, I feel like from this point, there is this initiating force, this oomph that is coming through. Now, because Saturn is often referred to as the Lord of Karma, I feel as though there, in a lot of cases, these karmic cycles that are closing out and new ones are beginning, okay? Or perhaps we're moving past one karmic cycle and are now moving into a space where we may be addressing another, okay? So for some, this may look like things coming to an end, all right? Again, we've just had Saturn move out of the sign of Pisces, the final sign in the zodiac, right? The end of a cycle, the end of that journey through the cosmos. So as Saturn, you know, gets a little bit more cozy, let's say, in Aries, you could find many things coming to an end. The closing of these karmic cycles, the closing of something and the beginning of something else. And there may be a push to really go there, to really push beyond your limits, to really test your courage, okay? This may look like, or this may be experienced as leaving behind the shadow of your former self. And it's very interesting how this has shown up. I just want to share with you a picture. And it's interesting because this book actually ties into how all of this started coming through. But I just want to share with you a picture here, which I opened up to. And you can see that there is an image here of a woman, and then you can see the shadow there in the background. And what it's given to me, what it's brought forward for me to share with you, is this leaving that behind, leaving this former self, this shadow of who you once were behind, okay? Leaving it where it is. And I know that that's so much easier said than done. I know that, you know, that is not something that humans like to do. We don't like to lose things. We don't like to let things go. We can be very, very stubborn in that way. But as we do this, and you may even be feeling this now, elements or experiences of your former life, okay, whatever took place during this cycle of Saturn going through the zodiac and starting over again in Aries, those elements of your former life may feel very distant. They may feel gone, difficult to remember, like a different life or time. It may feel like someone else's life. You may be trying to remember certain things, like have these, it almost feels like, in a way, almost like deja vu, right? Like almost like, I feel like there's something that I've done before, or something that I've experienced, but I can't quite remember what it is. And the interesting part about that is it could be something that your former self was very impacted by, something that your former self carried, but it could feel like someone else's life. And that could be because in a very short period of time, and of course, when we talk about time, with regard to the macrocosm, it's just kind of silly, honestly. But in a very short period of time for us as eternal beings, so, you know, within the span of maybe 3 to 4 years, 3 to 5 years, you've likely died and been reborn multiple times. And I mean like multiple times. Like, I feel like you could have been going through this experiences of like dying and being reborn, like one after the other, after the other, after the other, like really going through it. And it may feel like you've lived many lives in a very short period. Okay, you could have found things changing very quickly and going through things very quickly, and, you know, losing different connections or you know, different experiences or situations, and dropping them and picking others up and learning a lot and disregarding a lot, having a lot of truth revealed to you, a lot of lies being brought to the surface, whether that be within yourself or in your external world, your relationships. I just feel as though the past, you know, three to 5 years or so for you could have been this whirlwind of, here you are, oh nope, now you're a new person, and now you're a new person, and like now it just really feels like going very, very quickly through this period of evolution and growth, death and rebirth. Okay, it feels very Platonian, very transformative, very kind of death card in the tarot, very Scorpio, right? That may be a significant for you. Maybe you have some very strong Scorpio or 8th house, you know, maybe you're ruled by Pluto, whatever it may be. I just feel like there's been this period of transformation that's just been boom, 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 right? And during that time, you either okay, so I feel like this could be coming through a couple of different ways. You could be someone who has closed and cleared karmic cycles, or maybe a karmic cycle, depending on your journey. If not, you may be doing that currently. I mean, truly, I feel like if you're here, it's very likely that this is something that's already been done, right? And as we've just come into this new cycle, you may not be experiencing the changes of that just yet. In the physical, in the material, you could be looking back and seeing some of what's gone on from a very kind of internal space, okay? Like really feeling it, seeing it from like a more mental, a more spiritual, emotional place, but not quite seeing it in the physical just yet. It kind of feels like being in this very long hallway where one door has closed. You know, you kind of, what is that movie? Is it like The Matrix or something? Or one of the Matrix movies. I feel like I've seen this somewhere, where you kind of like pop out of one door, right? And you're in this hallway full of doors, but the other door hasn't opened yet. So you're kind of like, what are we doing here? Where are we going? You know, I feel like that could be where you're kind of sitting right now. It could feel very much like that, very much like, you know, one foot in one door, one foot in another, or kind of like straddling, you know, one life from the next kind of thing. And so as you progress forward, as time moves forward, right here very shortly, I feel as though you're likely going to be encouraged to take a step forward as this new creation, one that has been forged in fire. And to be quite frank, I feel as though once you take that step, okay, once that door opens for you and you decide to step through it, you may be seen as a very unrecognizable by those who were once a part of your life, right? Or once maybe was very close to you, or, you know, maybe they knew you. You may just emerge, you know, this new being, and they may be feeling like they don't know you at all. Your physical features, I feel like, this is very interesting, just dropping in now, your physical features could even be shifting a bit. I just feel as though you could walk past someone who perhaps you were very close with previously or spent a lot of time with, and they may not even recognize you. That's how it's feeling to me. It's feeling like, you know, passing by someone or walking into a room with, and seeing someone who, you know, you had some sort of relationship with, who you would expect to recognize you, just completely, you know, not seeing you, essentially. And that may not be a bad thing, okay? I'm not saying that, you know, you should be like, oh, remember me, like, type of thing, you know? There may be a reason for that. Use your discernment, of course, but it just feels as though you could be emerging this new being, this new facet of yourself, and that someone who, you know, again, you would think would recognize you may not. And so again, I just want to share, you know, a page from this book with you. But, you know, in this page here that I had randomly opened up to, there's, you know, this person taking a step forward. And I don't know that you can tell, but there is all over the ground what appears to be glitter, or maybe, you know, some sort of sparkly confetti or something, right? So there's this feeling of stepping forward in a very kind of celebratory or victorious type of way, right? There's a feeling of having overcome something. There's a feeling of having triumphed over something and being celebrated. Now, the thing of it is that this celebration, this victory that you may be experiencing, I feel like is, for lack of better terms, like a party for one, okay? Because I feel like this is something that you yourself, you alone, have earned, okay? I don't feel like there was someone there kind of holding your hand, lifting you up, encouraging you, praising you. I really feel like this has been like a solo mission type of thing, you know, where you've really had to just be there for yourself and show up for yourself and have faith in yourself and just keep doing that over and over and over. And, you know, however long this period may have been for you, again, maybe it's 3 to 5 years, okay? I do feel like you might be in agreement with the past year or so having been really giving it to you, really putting you to the test, really stretching you and really kind of pushing you beyond your limits, okay? Which really does go along with this whole kind of, you know, Saturn moving through the end of the zodiac, you know, really trying to kind of like push you past the finish line, really trying to get you to stretch yourself and get out of your comfort zone type of thing, which, you know, that was really kind of, that was really something that just now had dropped into my field. But as I'm saying it, as it's coming through, I'm actually realizing how much it's actually in alignment with everything that I have to share with you. So So I really love how these messages come through, because it's just, you can't make it up, right? You just can't. So you may be someone who, is essentially, if it's not already evident, you may be someone who will be recognized very soon as being or having this kind of precocious spiritual growth and evolution, right? And I'm not saying that necessarily tons of other people are going to recognize this about you, but you very well may be recognizing it about yourself. So you could find yourself in the company of those who, again, maybe you were close with or had a certain type of relationship with, spent a lot of time with, these sorts of things. And you may find yourself sitting with them and feeling like you're on a different planet. Okay. And this is super fascinating, because I feel like if you're here, you're someone who has already been on this journey for some period of time. Okay. You've already probably shed, let's say, certain relationships. This may be a new layer of that. This may be bringing to your attention some very clear distinctions between you and some others in your life. And, perhaps that's going to ask you to really acknowledge that within yourself, because I feel like some of these things are being revealed. Maybe it's someone who was very close to you, and perhaps you weren't seeing the truth of the situation. You weren't seeing the true dynamics. You weren't seeing the true, again, kind of that distinction between your evolution and theirs. That's not to say that they're bad, okay? That's not to say that, it's not about judging someone else. It's not about looking down upon them or, inflating your spiritual ego, as it were. But it is about realizing what is what, okay? It is about kind of calling a spade, if you will, or, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. Maybe ducks are important for someone, because that just came out of left field. But, I feel like there really is this distinction about certain people, and perhaps, things are being revealed about certain individuals or experiences, situations that you missed previously or were blind to previously. Or, maybe you knew about this. Maybe this is something you had an intuition about and just simply brushed to the side, for the sake of caring for this situation, this relationship, for the sake of loving these people, whatever it is. Or it could just simply be that you've now elevated to a point where you moved beyond that. You moved beyond that dynamic, that relationship as it was previously, and can now very clearly see how far, that gap has become. I truly feel like in the next few years, within yourself or within those around you, you are likely going to see this kind of burst of action, okay? This initiating force. You could find that certain relationships, situations, careers, living arrangements, whatever it may be, you could find them coming to an end, because I feel like there's this courage that is emerging, right? You are probably someone who has had to face some very dark parts of yourself, have had to overcome some very dark parts of yourself. You've likely been through some very dark periods over the past, like I said, 3 to 5 years. And with this cycle closing, you may now be emerging, again, this different being, Okay, where you're just kind of like, I just don't want to do this anymore, right? Like, I'm just over it. Like, what I've had to go through, what I've had to experience, what I've had to overcome, what I've had to do, like, I don't have it in me to keep doing this. If you resonate with that, this is likely because you again, you kind of recognize this within yourself. You're able to discern this within yourself. However, those around you, you could just find them just being fed up. Okay. This force is this Aryan force. Okay. Aries being the warrior, the emperor in the tarot, the very direct energy, the independent, action-oriented, the I am energy of the zodiac. It could be this oomph, right? It could be giving this oomph, this I don't want to do this anymore, being kind of pushed by that fire. But again, I really feel like you're likely someone who is again very kind of precocious in your spiritual growth and evolution. And if it's not already evident, I feel like it will be very soon, where you are just able to sit back and observe and then discern quite easily where you sit with regard to others. And again, this is not about judgment. This is not about inflating your spiritual ego. This is not about being high and mighty or any of that sort of thing. Okay, this is purely about recognizing where you sit with regard to others and moving accordingly. Okay, adjusting accordingly, navigating accordingly. There is a level of discernment where it's just like, I'm just not going to give my energy to that situation. I'm just not going to give my energy to those conversations. And it's going to be very interesting, very, very interesting, especially with regard to what I have to share with you here very shortly. Okay, because I really feel like there's this moment, this epiphany, this aha, where you may be having conversations, okay? And maybe you are trying to be truthful and vulnerable and to kind of share yourself, right? And you may realize very quickly that you are not operating in the same frequency, that you are not heard, you're not understood. It's just going in one ear, out the other, up over the head type of thing, okay? You could also find, I feel like, and this is just coming in just now, you may also find individuals disassociating, okay? It really feels like the closing of this cycle has been quite heavy. And I feel like there are those who have been going through it, but not navigating it. Right? So there's a difference. I truly feel like there have been some who have been just checking out, okay? Just disassociating, bypassing, really deep in escapism type of thing, okay? And that's not to say, I mean, again, no judgment. It is what it is. This is not easy. But again, there is this need for discernment. There is this need to be observant and to recognize what's what, who's who, and where you are in the mix of all that, right? Okay, so now we're going to get into the nitty-gritty. We're really going to go deep with it here. I'm going to bring forward some very interesting connections that were made beginning with a simple T tag. This is how all of this information that I'm sharing with you started to come in. I really love with my whole being how spirit takes me on this journey. and reveals to me things in pieces. And the more I take the initiative to research and to delve deeper, the more that's revealed to me. And it's like this beautiful layer cake of information that builds this puzzle for me to put together. So it started with this T tag. I was very moved and intrigued by what is a Persian proverb. It says, "He who wants a rose must respect the thorn." I was very intrigued by that, very moved by that proverb. I really hope you sit with it for a moment. Even if you have to pause here and just take a few moments, I hope you really sit with that, because it is so profound, so incredibly profound. And I just want to share with you briefly, okay? A proverb, if you don't know, is a short traditional saying that expresses general truth or wisdom and is used to convey advice, guidance, or insights to human nature or behavior. And we're going to dive into some more esoteric anthroposophic truths, which accentuate how much this simple proverb conveys that insight. So I invite you to take this journey with me. And I'm going to kind of bounce around a bit in comparison to how this information actually came through. I'll try my best to kind of share with you when these things that I'm sharing came in, which may help you when things start to come in for yourself, perhaps. So I had got this nudge to do a video, which is wild because it's been some time, right? And I'm within myself, I'm kind of like, oh, am I ready? Like, have we moved enough beyond what I've been going through to really deliver a message in a way that is needed and is going to be helpful, that's going to be of service to someone else? And you know, I'm just kind of getting this nudge, and so I felt called to just grab a book off of my bookshelf, and it happened to be this book of Proverbs, funny enough, which I didn't put together at the time, by the way. But it happened to be this book of Proverbs from Alabaster, and it was like just open up to a random page, and of course it's the page that I shared with you earlier, right? And when I did that, and I took it upon myself to, you know, I want to know the exact definition of Proverbs. I know that they tend to be, you know, these little sayings and things, but I wanted to know exactly how they were defined. And when I did that, I got this message of this wisdom gained through oftentimes painful purification, trials and tribulations, karmic cleansing and clearing, which is, I feel, where you may be sitting at this point. Okay, I feel like you may be sitting in a place where you have this wisdom, you've acquired this wisdom, you've built up this wisdom, which has been gained through likely painful purification, trials and tribulations, karmic cleansing and clearing. And this is not just about reading about it, but it's about being about it. It's not just about talking about it. It's about actually doing it, actually being in it, right? In the trenches. Wisdom gained. It's not just knowledge, but wisdom. And the way that you accumulate that wisdom is actually by actually going through it, right? And again, I feel like this may be where you are finding yourself. So before I actually grabbed this book off the shelf, before any of that happened, I came across this video that immediately grabbed my attention. And it actually comes from a channel that I didn't subscribe to before. I do now. The video is actually of a conversation between two gentlemen, one being Douglas Gabriel and the other being John Barnwell. And the video was actually posted to Douglas Gabriel's wife's channel, Tyla Gabriel. It was posted to her channel not too long before I actually saw it, which is quite interesting. This video, Deeper Secrets of Saint Germain and Master Jesus, have deep ties to the work of Rudolf Steiner and anthroposophy, which, if you've been here before, are not new. Okay, this is probably not your first time hearing about them. And this conversation that Douglas Gabriel is having, where he is referencing the Rose Cross, which is part of the Rosicrucian mysteries, and the smell of roses accompanying big spiritual steps that we've taken. I was reminded of the Persian proverb from my tea tag, right? He who wants a rose must respect the thorn. And I was thinking about this, you know, from the perspective of what Douglas Gabriel had said, right? When we take these big spiritual steps, it's often accompanied with the smell of the rose. And so that related to my own journey, okay, of, you know, wanting, for example, or of seeking the rose and experiencing the thorns. And so it led me to Steiner's work. So that's where my research really came in. I spent quite some time researching this. And I have a couple of quotes that I want to share with you with regard to the rose and the thorns. So this comes from the work of Rudolf Steiner, from GA 119, Lecture 8. And he says, "And so the red rose can be for us a symbol of what man's blood will become when he masters his lower nature. We see the rose as an emblem, a symbol of the purified blood." Okay, like, I read that and my mind was blown, right? How could it not be? Right? Because we talk about wisdom gained through painful purification. And here's the thing. Following Christ, spiritualization, being on the life wave, or what New Age calls ascension, is purifying yourself, okay, of trauma, wounding, pain. It is purifying. The Christ impulse is purifying, right? And then when we dive into what Steiner says in GA 94, Lecture 2, he's speaking here of the Christian initiation mysteries. And he says, the third stage is the crowning with thorns. At this stage, one does not only bear pain, but also contempt from one's fellow men. One has to win the fortitude to bear the feeling of obliteration, when there is no one there to give one courage and strength except one's self. When one is considered entirely worthless and yet remains inwardly upright. Thus must it be experienced. This is felt in the spiritual world as the crowning with thorns. One sees oneself with the crown of thorns. Pains in the head will be felt in the physical body. Changes take place in the brain, something that later also becomes noticeable in the waking state. Isn't it wild how much what is shared there between those two quotes from Steiner aligns with what we've already discussed and what you yourself may currently be experiencing. As I said before, you may have been going through this experience alone. This may be a victory celebration for a party of one, because you may have done it on your own. And if you have watched previous released videos of mine, this energy has already came through. This energy of, navigating your journey alone, of needing to really dig deep and to have courage and strength and to find faith. Like, you cannot make this up. You can't. And even though you may not be experiencing this stage of initiation yourself at present, there is this acknowledgement of what this journey asks of you. I feel like this really unveils or reveals the truth of what this journey asks of us all, okay? What it truly means to follow Christ, what it truly means to purify your heart, what it truly means to navigate this journey. And again, this is not coming from a place of judgment or egoism or any of that, because I understand we are all at our respective positions. We are all at the place we are in our journeys for a reason. It is where we need to be. When you are going through this and dogma doesn't reflect to you, it doesn't show to you what you are experiencing, and there isn't anyone there acknowledging it for you, and it can be so overwhelming, right? It can be one of the hardest things you will ever do, right? And so this information coming forward is so validating. It's like, oh, right? Like, because sometimes it's not necessarily that we don't have the strength or courage or faith to endure the trials or tribulations. Sometimes it's just feeling like there's nothing there to validate it. That's what makes it feel so immense. That makes it feel so much like, I don't know if I can keep doing this. But this brings that forward to say, I see you. That's what it felt like Spirit was doing with this, right? That's what it felt like the angels were doing. Like, I see you. I see what you're doing. I see what you're going through. This is what you've been experiencing. And again, even if it's not necessarily that you are at this stage of your initiation, it could simply just be validating, hey, this is really freaking hard. And I see you. Naturally, you could be seeing roses or thorns or a combination of the two, either in your virtual or physical realities as signs for you. You could also be seeing repeating 2s and 5s. And I just want to share with you a bit of what these numbers represent. So moving forward, some of the things I'm going to be sharing could definitely be signs and symbols that may be reoccurring for you in your reality or may stand out for you. And I'm going to be sharing a little bit of information about those as well. So the number 2, can be this representation of duality, right? Light and dark, good and evil, masculine, feminine, yin and yang, which you could very much be experiencing at present. Twos can also represent choices or decisions, partnerships, relationships, unions, diplomacy, tact, cooperation, communication, and understanding between people. Intuition, psychic abilities, inner wisdom, think high priestess in the tarot. Twos can also represent mirroring, okay, reflecting back thoughts, emotions, and experiences. It can represent sacred union, wholeness, completion, unity, and the union of masculine and feminine energies. Think Two of Cups, okay? Twos can also represent balance, cultivating inner peace, and finding equilibrium. And if you are someone who has been on this journey for 3 to 5 years, I feel like you're someone who is really, to the best of your ability, seeking ways to accomplish this. I feel like you are probably someone who has next to no patience for drama and gossip and just nonsense. I feel as though you are likely someone who would choose being alone for the sake of your peace. Actually, the image I'm getting in my mind is that one of Homer Simpson where, you know, he is on the edge of the bushes and he just kind of retreats into the bush. Like, I feel as though that might be your kind of position on things, where it's like, meh, I'm just gonna go this way. Like, I don't want to deal with that. So you could absolutely be seeing repeating twos. Also with fives, so you could also be seeing fives. Fives represent change, transformation, conflict, freedom, humanity, the human experience. Fives also represent adventure, risk-taking, stepping out of your comfort zone, spiritual awakening in some cases, enlightenment, which enlightenment is, according to Douglas Gabriel, simply the realization of your immortality. The full realization, acknowledgement, acceptance, understanding of your immortality. The number 5 is also, you know, represented by the pentagram, which is man, by the way. The 5 elements, of course, earth, air, fire, water, and spirit. 5s can also represent spiritual growth, manifestation, and kundalini energy. Okay, so the reason I listed off all of these things is because it could be showing up differently depending on where you're at in your journey, right? Perhaps you're someone who is now facing some choices around relationships, or perhaps you're experiencing people mirroring things to you, reflecting back to you certain things within yourself. You know, maybe you're someone who is currently faced with change, conflict, right? Maybe you're being asked to take some risks, just depending on where you are. So again, you know, take what resonates with you. If it's not yours, don't make it yours, okay? So again, you may be seeing those numbers repeating in any combination, okay? 52, 25, 555, 222, you name it, it's possible. So you could also be seeing the color gold. Now, this actually came through in a song, which I will link below for you, and we will dive into some of the lyrics for. But I just want to share with you a couple of quotes from Rudolf Steiner with regards to gold. Maybe you're drawn to the color gold. Okay, so from GA 232, lecture 14, Rudolf Steiner says, "Gold is an impulse for the quickening of human thinking, so that human thought can work down as far as into the etheric body." Now, for those of you who don't know, the etheric body is actually the body that gives life to the physical body. He also says in GA 91, lecture 13, the Philosopher's Stone, in the post-Lemurian time, we already have the warm man, and now the way back begins. Okay, so the way back is essentially what is referred to as, the life wave. It's referred to as spiritualization. It's referred to the Christ impulse. It's referred to as, in New Age, ascension. Okay? When man develops physically, he will not only develop the warmth in himself, but will radiate it again and illuminate his surroundings like a sun. Then he will radiate the light like the sun used to do, and the earth can evolve. On the earth, which later becomes Jupiter, or in esoteric Christianity is New Jerusalem. He radiates the luminous gold power so that man will be the creator of gold. Thus, through his own development, man becomes the chemical laboratory that creates gold. Man becomes the planetary spirit and then brings forth what the planet has brought forth. A material transformation is really going on with him, and so he becomes the source of gold. Through meditation and concentration, we generate the forces that lead to this, so that today, for mankind, these spiritual operations are the natural forces by which he prepares later material transformations. There's so much that is missed in dogmatic Christianity, in taking Christianity or the Christ or the Bible or any religious text literally, which is why I feel so many find that they can't make sense of it. It doesn't stir life within them because it's missing so much. If you're like myself, who, went to church, who, was baptized and all the things, but could never connect, right? No matter how many church services, none of it. Like, I just couldn't establish that connection to my heart. It always felt to me, that there was something missing, that something didn't feel right. And it wasn't that I didn't believe in something much greater than myself, because I absolutely did. I just couldn't put that with what was shared to me in church. And upon being led to, which took some time, but upon being led to the work of Steiner, the dots started connecting. Things started making sense, and you actually experience it in your being. Okay, now I'm not sharing this with you because this is the path you have to follow. I just want to make that very clear. Your path is your own. You will know what path is best for you. Maybe it's a more Eastern tradition like Buddhism or something like that, whatever that may be for you. Or maybe it's, a more Western tradition like anthroposophy and esoteric Christianity, Christian mysticism, right? This is your path. You know better than anyone what path is for you. So I'm not saying that this is the path you must take, okay? I encourage you to be true to yourself and what resonates for you. I'm just sharing this because for me, church and scripture, the Bible, all of these things, Christ didn't make sense. And I could not establish a connection to it. Not anything real, not anything substantial, not anything profound. But through Steiner's work, I've been able to, it has stirred life within me. Okay? It has brought Christ to life within me. And perhaps for you, it might do the same. Again, it's not, you don't have to take this path. But, if you're someone who is seeking truth, you may discover it there. So the song that came through bringing that gold with it is actually called Gold, and it's by 𝐋𝐈𝐿 and 𝐿ENNIUM featuring Shallows. And the lyrics that came through are, I'm driving till I find what I've been looking for, but it's inside. Do I walk on the cut glass? Do I run to the forest? Do I stand in the fire? Or do I hide from this moment? Do I let someone else take the fall? 'Cause I'm scared that I'll lose it all. But it's all gold, and it's all good. So I feel as though that song came through because you are likely someone who has been kind of at that crossroads, right? Looking at some point externally for something, maybe not even knowing what that is, maybe looking for yourself, looking for truth, looking for joy, looking for love, looking for happiness, looking for, you know, whatever it may be for you, whatever you may have been looking for, you know, trying to find that outside of yourself, and then coming to this place where you realize, oh wait, it's actually inside of me, and now I kind of have to acknowledge that. Now I have to acknowledge that. Now I have to decide what to do with that now that I know that. And sometimes it takes, now, you know, I'm not saying this literally, okay, but we have these series of questions within these lyrics. You know, do I walk on the cut glass? Do I run to the forest? Do I stand in the fire? Do I hide from this moment? Do I let someone else take the fall? You know, I feel like these are all metaphorical questions that we are faced with once we realize we've been seeking outside of ourselves for something that exists within. And then realizing that through that acknowledgement, through making a decision, through allowing ourselves to be changed by it, though it may be painful, though it may be trying, it's all what has to happen. It's all good, right? With that energy of gold, of course, comes the sign of Leo. Gold is represented by the sun. The sun rules Leo. So Leo could be significant for you. Maybe you have heavy Leo in your chart. Maybe the season of Leo is significant for you. 22 July through 22 August. With that Leo energy, I also was getting heart of gold. Okay, Leo, when we look at the body, Leo shows up in the heart. And so you could have been going through this purifying process and maintained a heart of gold, right? As Steiner said, with regard to the crowning of the thorns, it's one being considered entirely worthless, yet remaining inwardly upright. So you could have been in a position where life was life-in. You could have been brought to the edge where you could have allowed yourself to make decisions that were immoral and yet remained inwardly upright, you know, having this heart of gold. And if you're someone who resonates with life-in and still maintaining your integrity and, you know, remaining moral, there is this heart of gold acknowledgement. There is this, I see you. Okay. The sign Gemini could also be significant for you at the time of this recording. Again, this is timeless, but at the time of this recording, there is actually a lot of Gemini energy at present. We are in Gemini season. We've just had a new moon in Gemini as well. Gemini, of course, being the sign of duality, bringing me back to those repeating twos, and the harmony or union between the physical and spiritual self, or the harmony and union between the masculine and feminine aspects of one's self. So very interesting, right? How there's this kind of push-pull energy with Gemini coming through the physical self versus the spiritual self. Because here's the thing. One of the things about Saturn, okay, the Lord of Karma, it presents this question. And we can even look at this, without Saturn, we can look at it from a karmic cycle perspective, which these karmic cycles bring forth these questions like, are you willing to sacrifice everything to do what is right? Are you willing to give up everything to do what is right? Right? What are you willing to give up? And that push and pull between the physical and spiritual is one that we all must face. Okay? Are you willing to sacrifice every material thing, every worldly thing, the flesh, for that which is right, for that which is true? Will you sacrifice everything for truth? As much as spiritual communities would love for this to be all love and light and rainbows, it's just not that fluffy. I'm sorry. But the questions that we're faced with, the challenges that we're faced with, I mean, it's harsh. It pushes you to your limits and beyond. And it all is to bring us to a point where we can free ourselves. Which brings me to another song that has come through with these messages. And that song is called Free Me by 𝐿𝑖 And this is a song that basically has these phoenix rising from the ashes, eternal being, freedom from karma, trauma cycles vibes. That is the entire vibe of the song. And the lyrics that really stood out are dance with the fire, dance with the firelight, dance till we die, ashes in the night, free me now, free me now. Okay? Because it really is this essentially not buckling under the weight of the fire, but dancing in it, right? And allowing yourself to burn in order to be reborn. And if you're still here, I feel like this is likely where you are. And that's where that celebratory victory energy, triumphant party for one comes in. It's like the weight of this journey, the burden of this journey can absolutely cause one to crumble. It can absolutely cause one to buckle. And if you're still here, I feel like you're someone who just endured. You're someone who did not give up on yourself, who did not lose faith in yourself, in God. And there is this emerge victorious energy. There is this, the future is now energy, right? There's this realization of building something not just for this life, but for future incarnations, for future experiences, for what may come. So just a couple of additional signs that may be significant for you. You may be someone who has felt very called to a culinary path. You may be someone who is very interested in, very passionate about becoming a chef. I know, so random, right? But if that is true for you, I feel like there is a take that risk energy Of course, use your discernment, trust your intuition, do whatever you feel is best for you. No one can make that decision for you. But if you've been teetering on that, this may be a significant sign for you to take a leap of faith, to jump, to have the courage, to be the initiating force, and to go after that dream. Additionally, you may be someone who has been seeing a lot of dolphin symbolism, or maybe you have deep connections to dolphin energy. Perhaps dolphins are very significant for you. Maybe you've been drawn to them. Maybe you're someone who just really likes dolphins. If that is true for you, this could also indicate a connection to ancient Greece. You may have had different lifetimes there. There may be something significant showing up through that for you. There's also a connection with dolphins to Dionysus, which was worshipped at the Temple of Delphi. And this has come forward in a very interesting way. It's not kind of the direction that I imagined it going, but, you know, who am I to say? So because dolphins have this connection to Dionysus and being worshipped at the Temple of Delphi, thus it brings forward the oracle at Delphi as well, or the Pythia, and the rise of the divine feminine, or the Sophia. Maybe you feel very drawn to the Pythia. Maybe you feel very drawn to the oracle at Delphi. Maybe you've been very drawn to those mysteries. Maybe you're very drawn to Apollo even. You could be someone who perhaps feels like an oracle. The rise of the divine feminine, whether you are male or female, is irrelevant. The divine Sophia or Holy Spirit could be very magnetic for you. Perhaps you've been seeing signs of this showing up in your reality. If you want to learn more about the Pythia, the rise of the divine feminine, the Sophia, I would encourage you to check out the work of 𝑔𝐺 Jung, Douglas Gabriel, Tyler Gabriel, and of course Rudolf Steiner. And I will link those resources below for you. And just one more thing with regards to the dolphin, which I find really ties in to what we talked about earlier in this chat, which is Dionysus dies and is reborn again each year. So therefore, you know, the dolphin, having that connection to Dionysus, is implicated in the transition between this world and the next, right? So there is that element with the dolphin energy of death and rebirth, okay? With transitioning between one way of being to another. And, you know, I feel as though that could be very significant for you, especially if you feel deeply connected to dolphin symbolism or dolphins in general. Now, before we wrap this up, because I am going to have to make this into 2 separate videos, so do look out for part 2, where we will dive into the cards and what would like to come through there. But before we say goodbye, I just want to share with you what is said here about the dolphin in the Wild Unknown Animal Spirit deck from Kim Krans. So the dolphin represents being innately intelligent, healer. It represents light and blessings. And it says, the gifts of the dolphin are beyond what our human minds can grasp. Dolphin personalities are often drawn to the healing arts, as they are sensitive to the subtle and enjoy working on the level of spirit. It's easy for dolphin types to underestimate the impact they make in the world. These creatures play such an important role in the wheel of karma that coming in contact with a dolphin type will change the entire course of your day and thus your life. This card can also indicate a profound blessing is on the way. When in balance, an active healer, and strong spiritual presence, when out of balance, underestimates own power. To bring into balance like-minded spirits. So again, very, very interesting how this dolphin energy really folds into everything we've been discussing. And I can't get enough of it, you guys. I love how Spirit takes us on this journey and brings things full circle, right? It's like back to the beginning. Notice how Spirit just ties everything together so beautifully. And I am absolutely here for it. I love every minute of sharing these messages with you. And I pray that you have found that what has been shared here has been valuable for you, that it has resonated for you, has provided some kind of confirmation for you and your own experiences. Please do remember that you are your own guru, okay? You are your own guru. Trust your intuition, trust your discernment. Do not make anything that I've shared here yours if it is not. Take care of your beautiful, evolving, loving, wonderful soul. I hope to see you in part 2. Peace be with you and within you. Bye.